Paul, I know you missed me on Friday because I was a little under the weather, which we can talk about here in a second. But I don't want to miss out on our conversation about wrapping up credit card points because I feel like it's vitally important that we haven't drilled this enough into the ground.
Okay.
No, I'm just kidding.
Actually, I'm glad you mentioned that. I wrote some notes.
We've done extensive research.
Actually, I talked to my wife about this because we talked about it, and I haven't done this yet, but I am going to go and review our cards and what we're using them for. Because, for example, one of the things that Gold American Express has is $25,000 worth of groceries in a year with, I think, 3X points. And I got to compare that to what we're using because that might actually make more sense.
Yep. Anyways, it is Monday. I came down with the vid late last week, which, let me tell you.
Actually, so how do you think this happened? Not that you'll ever.
Oh, I know. I'm almost positive I know where I got it, Paul Thurrott. Let me explain to you this little scenario here.
Yep.
Many years ago, I got my wife it was a rose bush for Mother's Day. It was around the time our daughter was born. I think it might have been that year. I think it was the year she was born. We got a rose bush. We had a spot in the yard. I had to dig out an old bush and then put the rose bush in. I got poison ivy doing that. It was the gift that kept on giving.
Yeah.
This year.
No good deed, whatnot.
My wife's birthday was on Saturday, and I completely ruined it by having COVID. But I'm pretty sure I got COVID going to get her gift on Tuesday of this week. And, yeah.
Where was this?
I don't want to name it. Like, it's just a local place. I mean, it wasn't their fault. It wasn't
their fault.
Well, because, I mean, I think it was in an elevator, like, going to their location. Mm-hmm. But the only reason I think that, there's another possibility, is my kid is also back in school. It's possible that she had it or carried it and didn't know and gave it to me, but my wife and kid have not had it. So I'm the only one, and that was the only place in the past week that I have gone without my wife.
Yeah.
So, whatever.
It's a little trickier for me because I was with my wife when I got it, and she never got it. And then I had to stay away from my daughter because she was going on a cruise when we got back from our cruise, and she never got it. And, yeah.
I wonder if our wives are trying to kill us.
My sister and her husband went on a trip with friends while we were away. On our last trip, they all got COVID. My brother-in-law, this is number 2 for him.
Fantastic.
So, in case you were keeping score at home.
Yeah, but I feel like I should have like a 30-day window now where I can go to the Bengals game or something and be like, I should be fine.
Yeah.
Then I'll come home with monkeypox and life will continue on.
Yeah.
So, anyways, it was, it sucked, but it wasn't like I was more
sicker. Impacted by food poisoning than I was by COVID. That took me out for a week. I mean, I wasn't sick every single day, but you just don't feel right, that kind of thing. Plus, you don't know, I guess you're still early on. I mean, hopefully you're not one of those long COVID guys,
one of them. No, I mean, I feel the best today I have since Thursday of last week. If it wasn't for like this congestion that you can probably kind of hear, maybe I would be pretty much back to normal. So,
right.
I actually got some decent sleep on my daughter's bed last night, which that's like a whole other separate issue. Because it's like we're trying to separate. Like I've been in the basement, which sounds great on paper. It's like, oh, you're going to be down in the basement where the Xbox is and the great TV for 5 days. And no, like after about 24 hours, like I'm done. Like,
yeah. No, that doesn't sound great. That sounds terrible.
Yeah. So,
anyways, the house has to vacate when you like come rumbling out of the basement to search for food in the kitchen.
Oh yes, my wife has been. She has not been shy about spraying the Lysol. We'll put it that way. She has done a wonderful job of keeping us
I don't
safe.
think that does anything. Okay, well, anyway.
Yeah, anyways.
Good. Boy. Sorry.
Yeah, we had a birthday that I missed. Whatever. It's survived. And how's that webcam looking? Still looking?
Yeah. I put it on 1080p because I figured it wouldn't matter.
That's not quite true. I would flick it back to 4K.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I wonder if I could do that right now. Let me see.
Well,
what could go wrong? Technology. Hilarious. That's funny. Let's see if that does anything. I don't know. ID. Also, well, actually, here's how I can tell if it changed, because I can change the.
Oops, wrong button. It's like a wider shot.
Yeah. Okay. So I can do that kind of thing.
Oh, there you go.
But I don't know. It's transmitting what it's transmitting, but
theme of the week.
Yes. Right. As the recipient of a transmission this week, you understand.
Also, disappointingly, but not unsurprisingly, the SLS was scrubbed, launched this morning. I'm a big observer. I totally expect if this thing. I would have been more shocked if it actually launched than if it didn't launch. I mean,
it's always disappointing, though. You know.
Yeah, but they've got a couple extra windows. Given that it's the first time this thing's ever going to launch, they're not going to launch unless they are 100% happy with it. Because if that thing goes up and blows up, eesh.
You know, there are young people now who are like, wait a minute, the government sends things into space
too? I know.
Yeah.
And it's like, we're just waiting on SpaceX. And it's like, well, that's the totally different conversation, because SpaceX is a commercial company. Right. And they would never just send something like deep into space, because it's just money's gone. Like launching the James Webb Telescope makes no sense to SpaceX. Like to build it, I should say.
Yep.
So, anyways, that thing was scrubbed. They got a fuel hydrogen leak. Sounds minor. On engine number 3.
I guess. I mean, anywho, I'm sure they'll figure it out.
Yeah, I'm sure they will too. There was also a quote-unquote leak of the Xbox Game Pass family SKU, but it was just an image, and it said family and friends. So maybe it sounds like Game Pass you might be able to use with your friends, which actually is kind of more interesting than maybe not at the end of the day.
I don't know how they would monitor it otherwise. You know, if I am paying extra and I want to include you in it.
Yeah.
You know, like, why would they care? I mean, what's the difference? I mean, I don't know. No, we'll see. You know, I could, for example, if I had Microsoft 365 family, I could add you to that.
I wonder if
Microsoft 365. Right? Same theory.
Yeah. That's a lot of confidence for Microsoft to work through that.
I just don't see the point of it. You know, and we don't know how much this is going to cost. It has to make sense for them, obviously, but more people on Game Pass at this point, I think, is what they're looking for. So we'll see.
And then this morning, Sony also announced that they bought a mobile game studio and that they are getting into mobile games. Given how much they've been buying and what they've been doing lately, it's not all that surprising.
Yep. Actually, speaking of which, you saw the on again, off again, on again Amazon buying EA thing.
Yeah.
That seemed like a hoax at first, but now it's like, this might be based on something.
Well, see, when I hear that, and I think your brain probably went to the same things. Like when you hear a semi-reputable like establishment say, "Hey, look, Amazon and EA are talking," and they say acquisitions, like, okay, I have no doubt that there are actual conversations going on in some capacity. Now, they may not be acquisitions. It could be EA going all in on AWS for something. Who knows? But it wouldn't surprise me if we see some announcement come out between EA and Amazon in some capacity.
There's always I don't want to call it a knee-jerk reaction, but there's a natural reaction to when something like Microsoft Activision happens, the other major players start looking around. You know, how can we counter this? And it's, I guess it's a lot like a Cold War theory. The idea is if we have something big and you have something big, we will not pull the console exclusive nonsense, because then we'll do the same thing. And, you know, you want it to be fair all around. And I'm surprised Sony hasn't been more aggressive. I know they bought Bungie and now this mobile company, whoever they are, but to buy
for a Sony to buy an EA would actually be, they could do it, but it's way more difficult than Microsoft to buy an Activision who can just write a check.
Yeah, no, for sure. But I mean, consolidation is going to occur, and Sony isn't going to be one of the companies that gets acquired. You know what I mean? Like they're going to be on the other side of that equation every time. So we'll see. Amazon EA makes sense. That doesn't mean it's happening, but it does make sense.
What? Here's a brain buster. I don't know the finances of this. And what if EA acquired Sony?
See, I just suggested that could never happen.
I know, that's why, which is why I wanted to.
Well, okay. First of all, Sony is a company like Samsung, right? They make a bunch of things that have nothing to do with the thing we're talking about, right?
Like life insurance.
Yeah. So, and it's a Japanese company, which there's people today waste a lot of energy complaining about how China is and how they supposedly require companies to give over information to the government and blah and all that stuff. People freak out about those differences because it's just a different way of doing things. But what we kind of forget is in the 1980s, we were freaking out about that stuff with Japan. And there's a co-opetition, a formal co-opetition understanding among businesses in Japan where companies are competing with each other, but they actually help each other as well. And it's all done to kind of prop up Japanese business in general. And I don't know what the logistics are of buying a Japanese company from outside of Japan. And people could probably come up with examples of this actually happening, but it's not common and would be very difficult. And in a case like Sony, what you're really talking about is, would Sony ever roll or spin off PlayStation into its own company? And I think when you look at Sony's finances and see where PlayStation lands in there, I don't know how that makes sense for them, frankly, because they would emerge on the other side of this as a much smaller company.
I just looked it up. Sony's market cap is about 100 billion. EA's is about 37.
Oh, there you go.
Although according to MSN, the media is all over Electronic Arts today. Click to see the sentiment.
So the question is, how big is PlayStation as a business? You know? And I don't know off the top of my head. I mean, I report on Sony finances sometimes, obviously, but I pay attention to
Can't
PlayStation.
Just rattle that one off the route.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. Well, what's Microsoft's market cap right now? One point something trillion. I think it's going to be 1.5. I don't know. I haven't looked recently, but it's between 1 and 2 trillion.
We'll find out real quick here.
Well, the point being, it's at least 10 times the size of Sony.
Exactly 2 trillion, like 2.00.
It's 20 times the size of. There you go. All right, that's interesting. So much I thought, weren't we in a recession? Did that happen?
And your stock price has gone down some.
But good for them.
Good for them.
Good for them. we have no problem financing this acquisition.
Yeah, exactly. So we will see what happens with the EA today. If anything, who knows? But if it does,
like I said, I don't have any. No one knows. I mean, it's not like one of us could be like, I think it's going to happen. You know, okay, good for you. I think it does make sense. I think if it does happen, it makes sense, especially given what Microsoft's trying to do with Activision. It's not something I think I would have said 6 months ago or whatever. Like this, I see this happening. But I think we all, as gaming changes from what it's been for a long time, I think mobile impacted gaming in a big way. A lot of the biggest names in gaming are companies no one had heard of just a few years ago. I think this cloud thing is going to change it as well, and the consolidation is going to occur around the big companies that have that infrastructure. Yep. Microsoft, Amazon, maybe Google, although they seem to be floundering. And that's an area where Sony has trouble. Yeah.
So I look forward to EA games being available exclusively on Luna.
In the Sony Mobile app.